I'll count them down from 5, is that all right?
Is getting there.
30 seconds.
I'm ready. I hope everybody is ready too.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Colby Memorial Temple. I welcome everybody to our Sunday Adult Lyceum or Sunday School. And I will be your presenter today. And my name is Sagar. I am a certified medium, healer, teacher in the camp. And that's about the smallest introduction you will have. So, so that being said, this Lyceum is an opportunity, just like I said, as a Sunday school, to talk about some educational pieces, not so much the lecturing part of it, but to allow you to expand your own mind and consciousness to what we share here. So my deep desire is to make sure everybody's awake. So be ready to interact, engage as the conversation goes on. And that's that. So just participate as best you can. I just also wanted to just take a moment to just say our new annual program has arrived. So if anybody is wanting to pick one up, they're available in the back and also in the bookstore, etc. So it's wonderful. It's a new and revised format. The information is still familiar, but it just has a different presentation. So that being said, I have a part A and part B of our Lyceum portion today. So we'll start with part A. And the part A is, I was drawn to pick this book to talk about things, and all the simple titles called The First Steps on Spiritual Path. First Steps on Spiritual Path, and it is White Eagle's Introduction to Inner Wisdom. Now, just to give a brief introduction to White Eagle before we get into the conversation pieces, White Eagle is a channeled entity by a medium named Grace Cook, and they represent themselves as messenger of brotherhood in spirit and no more. So we talk with the sense of consciousness, and they collect that. They also talk about in the introduction as the men and women who comprise the Brotherhood of the Star are simply those who have been treading the path of incarnation a little longer than the rest of us. In other words, they haven't taken any form, shape, etc. in return. These are the ones that guide, the ones who bring about miracles in human lives, and some of those miracles are described in this book. So we will see how we explore this book, but it's a very simple read. And the point that is being made by the authors and the publishers are, when you read the words from White Eagle or the Channel Wisdom, it is simple and straightforward, and it speaks to you as you would talk to each other, but it takes you home to wherever that it takes you. So if you would like to browse in the bookstore, I believe some White Eagle books are there. And they had also written a series of 4 books called Spiritual Unfoldment 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can pick it up and maybe incorporate it in your own unique way. So the first line in this book is very significant in some ways. The path that a person walks through life is individual, right? And a part of that simple spiritual journey, or the spiritualizing our lives, can take with any account. But regardless of where I am in this time period, and I've met my family, friends, colleagues, cousins, uncles and aunts, and peers, so to speak, and mentors, but I'm still finding that I'm uniquely designed for this path. So I can put up a fight with myself, but that usually don't lead me anywhere. But it does brings me back to say, this is my own journey. I'll have to figure things out. So through the happy moments, painful moments, I'm just continuing to figure things out. and I'm sure you are all doing the same thing. There's a passage in this introduction as well as to talk about we are all light, and we are represented by a six-pointed star illuminated by light. And the point is here that is being made is we're always just meeting light within each other, and to keep that in mind. Now, my journey within still complicated. Why somebody whispered in my ear to go find this book? And I'm still discovering. Maybe today is more about me than it is about the teaching itself. But then again, that's the beauty of our journey, is to learn and grow from there. So I will read a few lines and paragraphs, and we will just explore if we need to explore that. So there's one topic on this paragraph is truth lies within yourself. And I'll read the first few lines. If you would find an answer to every personal or world problem, practice the art of becoming very still within, as still and silent as the surface of a lake without a breath of wind to disturb it. This lake represents your soul, and when it is still, you have developed the will of God within yourself. Then you will see without distortion the reflection of truth on the waters of the lake, which is your soul or psyche. And then there's this beautiful phrase that I'm sure we've all have heard in some reference: be still and know that I'm God. When a soul is alone with God, God speaks to it. The individual then sees truth reflected in his or her own sight. But if the person does not use the divine will, does not pray for the will of God to be done, if people are willful, seeking an answer in accord with their own desires, then the answer will be distorted. For there is no peace in any of them. The lake of their soul is not still. Too many words. But the modern phrase could be, I do not know, be still. Shortest possible version. And I will share with my own journey. You know, I'm no different than you are, but from a perspective of reflecting on the stillness, it takes a lot of work. It's not easy. Absolutely is not. You know, it would be nice, you know, like we go to the store and buy a paint, a bucket, the color is what it is. But we'll have to find that stillness to even make sure the separation or understanding the grains of that within ourselves. So imagining me, we didn't have definitions of being hyperactive or having short attention span and whatnot. All it was that he's a very active kid. He needs to stay busy. And a part of that was that busyness was also like being explorative, just wanting to be curious about what life is. So taking apart toys and just figuring out how they are working on the inside, I was notorious for that. And I wouldn't be surprised that some of the family members would put up toys if I'm visiting there, and nothing right or wrong for me, but I was just curious. I just wanted to see how that horse is walking on its own. What's making it tick when we wind it up, what goes on the inside. And a part of that aha for me this time is when I am diving deeper into my own soul's journey. It allows me to see that stillness is not quite profoundly there, but when it is, it's really palpable. I can tell when I'm there. So my part is that enticement of enjoying that part is there. So the journey of the soul, mine is mine, yours is yours. Now I would like to say, do you have stillness, or do you have that little quietude in your practice? And if you think in terms, any classic spiritual practice calls upon sitting still or being quiet or go into a meditation, or if you have a religious profound background, maybe there will be a word is like go in prayers or sit in prayers with whoever your patron entity is to go to. But still, the idea is to still in that moment of praying or those affirmations or incantations to block out everything or just dismiss everything else is going on, be present in that space. And I would say that it's a basic practice and it cannot be avoided. Absolutely, that little want or desire to just be quiet in that small space is the root of the basic spiritual path. Let's forget about the spiritual path. Is the root for even sorting out your own emotions and chatter to make response to a human person or respond to any life situation that is happening. And I'll give you a good example. I have been doing my favorite dance with the car dealership lately. And I just love that part because, they are trained to be doing what the job they picked. And my enticement is, how do I navigate that part? How much I don't get pulled into their forcefulness in some ways. So anyhow, I was going there. So I came up, I finalized what I wanted, and I was just sitting in there, just like, oh. Then I looked at this comparative option for me, and I was like, oh, now I'm confused. So I told the guy, I said, could you just leave me alone for 5-6 minutes? Just go away. I don't need your work. And that is very akin to that sense of striving for that stillness or that little moment of zoning out or just finding that. So that person walked away, and I was just have both the keys in my hands, and I just wanted to feel what was feeling on the inside. And as I went into that feeling space, I just knew all my other worries were just completely shut. The mind got shut, and I just primarily asked the vehicle is like, which one? And then I just made the decision after that. But a part of that is, I'm just giving you a very mundane example, but sometimes we sit on issues and circumstances that are much heavier than buying a car. They're complicated because people are at the other end of it. But the spiritual path still says, if you're in the quandary, if you're in the little complexity, pause. Just pause. Just take that little step. Is there. Another way to think about it, you've probably heard this many times, to diffuse your own state of anger is to sit down, take a deep breath, glass of water, and then go back to it, and you will have a different approach to it. But all this is, once again, if we spiritualize any aspect of our life, it will start with be silent or disconnect just for a brief moment. Is there. So that leads me to the next thing. What happens after that? And I'm pretty sure it's different for different individuals, because once again, the spiritual path is an individual path. So I cannot tell you my path is the proven path. Perhaps it is for me, but maybe it may not be so fruitful for you or result oriented. But at least if you're hearing about it, maybe some things will stand out and something will not make sense to you. And that's the part of the discernment principle, is to understand what's working for you. Is there. So in going back in history, for an example, 1999, 2000, I was learning healing in Reiki. So we went through the initiation and understanding the symbols and the basic fundamental theories and just hitting those parts. And I'm still at level 1, and this was a large open group, so there were other advanced people. And I just having a smile at it because I went from 1 to 3 in a short notice. And some of the people were wanting me to be at their pace. But whatever that was being evoked in me through initiating or blessing went pretty fast. But the thing that what I'm wanting to bring to say, as our paths are unique, you might find something fast forward you very quickly. And then you may have to sort out things to keep us synchronicity moving or the balance moving in life. But part of that was my teacher at that time said, don't worry about it. He just gave me the little consolation. Rest is like, don't worry about it. Let it do its thing. It will sort itself out. So I went on. So at level 1, I had the permission from the processes to do a distance healing, which doesn't get to until the level 2. So I was just excited. I'm doing something. So it gave me a little superpower for a moment. But I didn't realize it was just taking me in a whole different direction. It was more moving into my own spiritual growth. But always, no matter what I had to do, even still today doing the practice of healing, if I have to be healing somewhere, I have to disconnect for 30 seconds or 20 seconds to reset my own mind that I'm stepping in a whole different commitment. I need to leave myself behind. And I've shared this story again, and I say that very profoundly. I was performing healing or participating with that, and I could not get out of my own mind. Life was too much at that point. Something was going on, and I just stayed there. So I caught myself in a couple of minutes, like, this is, so I gave myself instruction, Joy, you need to step out of here. And I'm not sure what was in that instruction. I just could feel my conscious brain just get detached and just went somewhere in the next seat somewhere. And once again, it was an observation. And if I didn't have the aspect of stillness, maybe I would not have been able to understand the separation that happened in that moment. And the healing went on fine. And I did have a nice validating outcome from that. But once again, it's not about me. It's about my ability to catch myself. So when we are in pursuit of our own growth, spiritual, materialistic, or human, we may find that there are things that just get in our way, or we choose to let them get in our way. And that little stillness will provide you to just get beyond that point is there. Breakthroughs are a very good example. The word breakthrough itself is what it means is it's not passing through where it needs to go, and something then pushes it to the next step forward. So understanding this is, we're talking from a spiritualist perspective, but it's just life at some point. I'm as living as anything out there, even the consciousness itself. I'm no different than consciousness because it's representing itself through me and you that sit here. But the part of that is, if you are in a spiritual journey or if you are in a religious journey, I respectfully say to take that time for a pause. And if you can do it multiple times throughout the day, you might really find it triggering a stimuli in your own consciousness to enjoy that day after day beyond that point is there. So I do have that sense from my own journey, but I'm sharing that with you so that if you have that things are not moving and working, maybe just to pause enough to let the consciousness do its job, and you will move into the next thing is there. The other part, what I was enjoying in this is there is no separation. I'll have to get to that phase. And here we are. There's neither death nor separation. It's further down in the book, but it reads, and I will read a little bit of this. Establish in your mind that human life is essentially infinite and eternal. And I didn't have this, I don't want to say I have a revelation, but I didn't have a grasp on that till I really grew into my journey with mediumship and working with the other side and healing more strongly, that I keep saying is, there's no difference. It's really not. It's really not. And it's still refining itself to understand what the dynamics of the spirit side of life is, how real it can be, or how real the communication be. It's a day-to-day experience, but that life is not different than this one. And this further reads that there has never been a time when you were not, and there never will be. We always are. We're always happening. We're always resonating within our physical body or our spiritual body. At this, you will ask, shall we not get tired of the ceaseless round of incarnation? Ever now, life is a burden. This is why God has limited your days in the flesh. You live on earth only for a few short years, which you call an incarnation, and then you leave your body as an outworn dress and go for the refreshments of your true home in spirit. Right? And I think I'm going to just utilize this part to say is, life goes on. That's why we call it continuity of life. We just transition. And I truly have come to a point where death and passing on, it doesn't bother me. It may give me a moment of sadness, but I even catch myself that sadness to be a pleasant one. And as simple as, but once again, this is me, not you. And that's not how it's supposed to be for you. Maybe it's different for you. But to understand this continuity from this body to the spirit body will happen. And it's we cannot avoid it. None of us can avoid it. For some, it happens soon. Some, it happens happily. Some, it happens with pain and suffering. Some, it is what it is. We are what we are even at that moment. And we need to embrace that. But the part B of this conversation, I think, starts here. So how many of us in this room has a loved one in spirit? I think everybody has, right? So if you're not raising your hand, I get that. It's an invisible spirit hand is there. So you remember your loved one, and this piece of conversation got stimulated last night at dinner. We were having friends with dinner, and we were talking about songs. What songs do we remember about our loved one? So how many of us do remember a song that belongs to our loved ones, right? And we enjoy that, especially when we're doing table tipping seance or something like that. We sing songs to bring the energy up, to lift the vibration up. Is there? So do you remember a song of a loved one that is in the spirit world? I want to hear it from you. I'm not demonstrating anything. I'm just in teaching mode at the moment. Perfect. Perfect. That's all. Ma'am, what about you? Yes. Fantastic. The ma'am in the pink jacket. Beautiful. Eileen, what about yourself? Jamie? In the garden. It's beautiful, isn't it so? And a part of that aha for us in that conversation at the dinner time is, we go through that, and there is the part of the journey of singing the song to bring in, pull in the people that we have. But a part of that excitement is, at this point, you remember their song. Does your family know what your favorite song is? Did you catch that? Because sometime it will be my time to be on the other side. And I wonder who's going to remember me by what song. But you understand that? So part of that is, no, you don't have to have a song. There's nothing like a mission statement or anything. But if you had a sense of enjoyment with a certain type of music or a song or a memory of that kind, that gets stimulated on the other side, and perhaps somebody living will recognize, like, oh, that's something Joy would sing or dance. I don't sing, but something to that effect is there. I know a lot of people will remember me by like one line or like poor jokes or something like that. But that sense of humor. But the part is leaving imprints in this world. And when we leave that imprint, it forever stays here. And a part of that is also recognizing the spirit of the brotherhood or the spirit of humankind. We are becoming so myopic, so individualized in our journey that we're not even interacting from really heart to heart. We're just doing business with our own family. It's always an exchange. Something is bartering, something is getting back and forth, but we're really not exchanging that emotional point. So what about that? And we are just standing on this beautiful segment of few weeks of holidays. I wish somebody would just make a playlist of all the songs you remember of all your loved ones that have passed on, and just play and see how many people in that gathering will be able to recognize, oh, so-and-so loved that, or so-and-so would get up and dance with that. Wouldn't it be nice to just have a family time and be reminiscing in that sort of memory? But I think that's the part for me I've learned is, wherever this life is, in a spiritual or other humanly manner, that's how we will be remembered, And once again, it's a place of neutrality, of saying, if somebody was, whatever their personality was, it was. And if they come with a holy glory type of personality, that's a contrast of that we may not be recognizable. Right? So I would say my father was a very wonderful musician. He could sing, play all the instruments. He did not pass on that gene to me. So that's quite okay. That's quite okay with that. But I do have a profound memory of him. A few years before, he was dancing to a song in my older brother's wedding. So I remember that song, and I have this beautiful clip of him dancing to that song. And I could also describe what he was wearing. So part of what I'm enriching here in our journey of spiritualism, or from a spiritualist mindset, is, are you creating memories? What are you leaving for yourself to be remembered by? It's not always what we remember of them, but what are we trying to remembered by? And I think that's the part of understanding of excitement, is we don't have that. Anybody here in this group had somebody who's passed on who was a whistler, who would whistle? There's a few people here, because I'm hearing whistling. I couldn't pinpoint where it's coming from. But a point is there, that's also the remembrance, somebody's whistling through that. But to understand, our nuances will be remembered. So maybe it's also a good opportunity to recognize, maybe we should break some habits we don't want to be recalled by. somebody's like digging into the nose or something like that. But just being real, because life is real, you know? But once again, if somebody did that and that's all they come through, like what strongest evidence do you need beyond that point? They're digging to China. But a part of that is to understand the life of spiritualism or the mediums, etc., is so real, you know, because we deal with the reality on both spectrums, both sides of the playing field. So just understanding what are we wanting to leave behind is there. Now, the other part, what I'm also wanting to say is, seance is a wonderful place of experiencing something different and special. So if you have that opportunity, participate and take a part in those activities. There might be a different exploration or different song and dance there for you. But also at the same time, if you're calling upon somebody specific, sing their song, hum their favorite things, and see how that responsiveness occurs in that experience of table tipping and so forth. So we do have throughout the years, many times we do have table tippings here, but a part of that is that excitement is there. See, I'm tuned in somewhere. I don't know the schedule. Oh, fantastic. 2 o'clock. We have one today at 2 o'clock. So maybe before the seance starts, say, can we sing our songs and then just go at it and see what goes on beyond that point. Now, I would say by my own experience working with the other side, no matter how sober, serious they were, they probably will continue to be that way. But they do get fascinated by mischief or manipulation of life here. And that part for me is exciting. And I always encourage my sitters or recipients to say, if you have the ability to give them a little enticement, see what goes on, you know, create a playfulness. And, you know, like we understand, life is always at best when we are joyful and playfully creating life at all times. And a part of that understanding is, you know, just move into that play is there. I would say if I leave a spoonful of sugar on my table, ants will get it. Probably my mother would get it too, because that was something she and I played with, a spoonful of sugar. And she was after me sometimes, and sometimes she was going at it. But once again, those memories are always continuing on the other side. Is there? Okay. So, any questions at this point before I get into the conclusive part of our conversation? Any questions? Yes, please. Jeff Goldblum, Spirit in the Sky. So far, it's on my list of that needs to be played if I'm passing on, if somebody can find me at that point. So well, I do not know. I might just go poof and gone. Who knows? But if somebody finds me, that's the song, Spirit in the Sky. That always speaks to me. So that's my song. Any other question? All right. So here's a question. Actually not a question, and an exercise. Whenever we meet again, I would like you to take not minutes, but 30, 40 seconds to find stillness at least twice a day. And it's almost like, you know, if I've ever been to the doctor's office and they want you to keep a tab on the blood pressure, write your numbers down or any blood sugar levels, something akin to it, just keep a mind on how it is enriching your life. You know, not everything becomes super smooth once you go into that space of silence and listening, because some old memories come up that were not the best kind. And then the point is to deal with that rather than bury them back to where they came from. So the part of that active spirituality is to deal with life as it is happening rather than shut yourself down or shut it out of your system. The part of that is, so when you do this 30 seconds, 40 seconds, you're just sitting in silence, whatever that first thought just comes up, probably use it to be a focal thought for that day and just keep working with it. It is no different than pulling an inspirational card or looking up an inspirational quote from whatever text you choose and to stay in the mind of that. But I would assure you, once you work with your own internal clock or your internal spiritual compass, it is so far more gratifying and fulfilling if you learn to know it is happening for a reason. Hundreds of memory, but why that one showed up for that instance. What is the song and dance? Because this is excitement. This is always an exciting thing for us to explore that part. But the homework is, as you go on, and if we ever meet again, perhaps stop me and share if you've done this activity, see how it has fulfilled and enriched your life. Spiritual path is complicated as we can make it, but it's also as simple as it gets. But with that being said, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Our regular service will start at 10:30. So in the meantime, if you need a restroom break or walkabout, circulating your blood, etc., please help yourself.